Hi everyone, welcome to Best Recipes with Sharon. I'm excited to bring this recipe to you for Nova Scotia blueberry bagels. And yes, the blueberries in this recipe came all the way from Nova Scotia. So Lisa, this one's for you. Now let me show you how these bagels are made. Now you can use fresh blueberries or frozen blueberries, either one. The ones I used today were frozen. So this is completely homemade bagel dough. Let's get started. So place 1 1/4 cups of warm water in a mixing bowl. Then add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Then add 2 1/2 teaspoons of quick rising yeast. And set that aside to dissolve and soften. These are wonderful plump blueberries, but I'm going to chop them into smaller pieces just to use it for the bagel recipe. And by doing this, I'll have it more evenly distributed throughout the dough. And we'll need about 1 cup of the chopped blueberries. And these blueberries will be placed in a small bowl and then dusted with 1/4 cup of flour. And I mix them with my hand not to break them up any more than I can help. Coating them with flour helps to keep them from bleeding into the dough. Then take another medium-sized mixing bowl and add 3 1/4 cups of flour. Add 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt to that. Then take a small spoon and just mix the flour and salt until they're combined. Now take the flour and salt mixture and pour it into a larger mixing bowl to start with, and then make a well in the center like this. Now pour in your softened yeast mixture. And I take a large spoon and then I mix it together like this until the dough starts to cling together. And your dough should be a little bit sticky at this point. Now then turn it out onto a floured surface. And I just needed enough to hold it together, and it should still be sticky so that you can add your blueberries and they will stick to the dough better and you can get it mixed in better. Now I add the blueberries about 1/2 cup at a time. And those blueberries are coated with flour, so go ahead and knead it aggressively so that you can get it mixed in well. You want those blueberries evenly distributed throughout the dough. And as you're kneading the dough, you'll need to dust it with flour here and there. And only add enough flour so that it forms a soft dough. There, now it looks like it's got a good texture and the blueberries are evenly distributed. So now we'll set it aside in a mixing bowl, cover it with a towel, and let it rise in a warm place for about 1.5 hours. Then I place some parchment paper on a cookie sheet. Now boil some water in a large saucepan. And the dough has rose to almost double, about 1.5 hours worth of rising. So then I'm turning it out onto a floured surface again, and then cut it into individual portions to make each individual bagel with, about 10 or 11 pieces, or whatever size you want your bagels to be. Now we're not going to be rolling these out, we're going to be taking each individual piece, shaping them with your hands and using your thumb in the middle to make the hole. You don't want to handle the dough any more than you have to at this point, since most of the proofing has been done in the first 1.5 hours. Now the second rising or proofing is only 30 minutes. And while these are rising, preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. And make sure your pot of boiling water is ready to go. So now then we're going to boil the bagels by placing 3 or 4 of them in the pot at the same time. I boil each bagel for 1.5 minutes, and then I flip it over and boil it for another 1.5 minutes on the other side. You can boil it longer if you want it more chewy, but I find 1.5 minutes on each side is about perfect. Then I scoop them out of the hot water like this, drain them off, and place them on the parchment paper on the cookie sheet. Then you take them and place them in the oven at 425 degrees for about 20 minutes. Now that 20 minutes is up, I'm removing them from the oven, and they're perfectly browned, and they're slightly golden underneath as well. So there you have it, blueberry bagels, your own homemade recipe that you can make up within a fairly short amount of time. And once again, that homemade flavor you just can't beat. What do you think? They look really good, don't they? Go ahead and try it. You'll be amazed. I love to cut them in half and toast them. They also freeze really well.